your next congressman from this. You can always say you're a woman, but I'm very pleased. There's one of the expectancy of the people living in that reservation is 42 years compared to the rest of the United States where it's over 70 years. Where the dropout rate is up to 65%, where there is community after community where only a handful ever even get into high school and even fewer ever graduate. There are very few in one of the communities that we had testimony from today, not one person had a job. There was no employment at all. These kind of conditions cannot be permitted to exist within the United States. Whether it's for the Indian, whether it's for the Negro, whether it's for the Mexican American or the Puerto Rican or the white man in eastern Kentucky. The great division that exists now within our own country between those who are affluent and those who are poor. The country has become more affluent. We have a gross national product of $800 billion, but we still have the poor with us. We have the poor here in South Dakota and we have the poor around the rest of the country. There are things that we can do within our own United States. It's not tolerable and it's not acceptable that there are young children within this state, that there are young children in eastern Kentucky or young children in Mississippi who don't have enough to eat. It's not tolerable and it's not acceptable and it's indecent in the United States that we have young boys and young girls who don't have a decent education. And it's not tolerable and it's not acceptable within our country that young men and young women who want jobs and want employment have to accept welfare instead. I think this should be changed, and it's one of the reasons I run for President of the United States. And I think there's more that we can do in many other areas as well. This state and this area needs tourism. Tourism is to attract people into this area, attract jobs here, attract industry here, attract employment here, so that we have the best possible schools instead of...
I don't have megaphones on. You're right. What are you pushing for, bud?
You have to push them.
Well, get out of there if you're not doing any work.
Let's go. You have to get down there now.
Well, I can probably do it myself. You want to help me?
Of it, whether we're going to have a decent education and whether young men and young women...
The Lincoln.
Uh-oh.
License number FCD 149. Please move it from its parking place.
Now you have a chance to either vote for him or vote for me. But anyway, I want to ask for your support. It's not just a question of coming tonight, but if we can put together an effort over the period of the next few weeks to canvass, to write letters, to make the telephone calls that are necessary for a successful campaign that we can win here. If we can win here in Oregon, we'll go on to win in California. We can win the convention in August in Chicago, and we can win the election in November, and we can turn the state of Oregon around, and we can turn the United States around.
Testing, 1, 2. Okay. This, too, is part of a presidential campaign. Senator Robert Kennedy starting this day in Oregon with a visit to a logging operation of the Weyerhaeuser Timber Company. 2,700 loggers work here, and they, too, will vote in the Oregon primary.
Oregon. Tripped over your bike. Sorry, watch there's dirt in it. On the inside.
Not denied an education for his children, not denied a job, or not denied a decent home because of the color of his skin. I don't think that has any place in the United States either. I think that this is something we cannot accept in our country. And these are the kinds of problems that we're going to have to deal with in the late 1960s and the 1970s. And I think we can do better than we've done.
Here in this shopping center, as elsewhere on his coast-to-coast travels, what Robert Kennedy has to sell is excitement. As he stumps in Indiana and in Oregon and the other primary states with the aim of stopping Eugene McCarthy and preparing for the challenge of Hubert Humphrey. His aim to persuade the political leaders that only he can create the excitement needed to sweep their tickets, local and state, into office in November on the Democratic line. This is Irv Chapman, ABC News, with the Kennedy campaign in Oregon. From Indiana to here in Oregon, from Nebraska to California, Senator Robert Kennedy is aiming at the key primaries as they approach in this election year. His campaign this week began with a Polish accent in South Bend, Indiana. It continued to Indian reservations in South Dakota and the cities of Rapid City and Sioux Falls. And then on to Oregon to begin with a lumber mill. The key primaries begin in less than 3 weeks in Indiana. And so Senator Robert Kennedy this week has been concentrating on the primary states of Indiana, South Dakota, and here in Oregon. His aim, to upset the candidacy of Eugene McCarthy, to prepare for the candidacy of Hubert Humphrey, to persuade the political leaders that only he can achieve the excitement that means victory for the Democratic ticket and their state and local candidates in November. This week's campaign began with a Polish accent in South Bend, Indiana.
Someone may come and take you with him if you get there with him. I'll try to take it for you. Where do you come?
How do you do?
I think. Welcome to Oregon.
Thank you very much. Very nice to see you. I'm actually co-sponsor the Senate.
I'm glad to see you.
I hope we make more money here. More coming over. How are you? Nice to see you. Isn't it a nice day?
Oh, beautiful day.
I'd like to sit right here with you.
Yeah, we should. We love it.
Very often was changing.
I think perhaps Camus had more effect.
Right. Senator Eugene.
Thank you so much.
Eugene McCarthy has just issued a challenge to debate you on nationwide TV before the primary. Would you accept that challenge?
Sure. As I said, I think they've already made the statement.
Leaves your party and joins the other party. What do you call him? We call him a traitor. Well, what about the man that leaves the other party and joins your party? Well, we call him a convert, and I guess the Republicans found that out 36 years ago. Now at this time, ladies and gentlemen, gives me a great pleasure and an honor to introduce to you the Honorable Senator Robert F. Kennedy from the Empire State of New York.
Thank you, Mr. Everson. Did you say vote for Kennedy at the end of it? The Republicans joined together?
Pardon me, I forgot about that.
Thank you very much. Could I just see our friends over here who are all just sitting? Thank you. Could you just move back? Really have not been adequate or satisfactory. We increased the Social Security, but the fact is that all that really did was keep up with the cost and living. In fact, although salaries have gone up, although prices have gone up, that we have to take in the Social Security area. But I think also we have to provide adequate and satisfactory housing for our elderly people, and also make it possible for our elderly people to continue with jobs and professions. So many of our elderly people don't want to retire. They want to get in the state of Oregon, which has a fine educational system, but which could be improved so that every young man and every young woman would have the opportunity to complete their education and go on to a college or a university. We'd have money to pay, but it's more difficult now. I'd like to see Social Security increases to go up to 50%, and I've offered legislation 2 years ago to that effect. It's more difficult now because of the demands on our Treasury. But I would hope that if we can find a negotiated settlement in Vietnam, that not only will we stabilize the dollar, not only will we stop the inflation, but we will also be able to take the kinds of steps that should be taken for our elderly citizens and for the people here in the United States. It seems to me that we have to look out for our people within our own country, as well as doing what is being done abroad. I thank you very much for having the opportunity to be here. Did I talk to you about that? You want to say now?
Want to take hands with the president.
Pardon me now.
How are you?
I think the president I've got to see.
Oh, is that right? What other ones?
And,
Oh, yes.
Senator?
That's his dog that was over there. That's his dog.
Is that his dog?
Why didn't you invite him over? I'm getting paid for it through MDTA, otherwise I'm working.
That helps a lot.
Yes, he can't find work.
What are you learning now? What are you learning under
I
the
want to take up
MDTA?
nursing.
Is that what they're teaching you?
Right now I'm going through basic education.
You mean your basic education skills?
Yes, then I go into college and so on.
Have they considered the food stamp program in this area at all?
No, they haven't. It's been talked about, but they haven't done anything.
Have you seen it? Are you familiar with the food stamp program?
No, not except World War II.
People in the county have to decide themselves. But if you didn't have could you get by if you didn't have a job and that amount of food?
No. And no time at all.
For how long?
No time for it.
For how long
I
does it?
own bread and 10 pounds of flour. I'll make bread about 3 times.
How long would it last for if you didn't have any other income?
2.5 to 3 weeks, 10 pounds of flour.
You know how many people you have on surplus food in this area? Is any? You know how many people on surplus food? How many?
Mr. Kennedy.
Thank you very much. Bye.
very much screen. I can take her with me every place I go. I just never give those kind of introductions. It's a great... And I got 4 of their boats. Speakers on the white side, the ones that are responsible for the death of Martin Luther King and others. Extremists on the other side are Stokely Carmichael, who preaches that violence and lawlessness and disorder is the only answer for the communities, for the future of this country, for our society. I don't think that's acceptable, and I don't think that the vast majority of American citizens want this. And when these riots and this lawlessness and this violence takes place, whether it's in New York or Chicago or Los Angeles, it affects everybody's life. You can't separate yourself. You're in Eugene, Oregon, you can't separate yourself. You're concerned about it. You're concerned about it as American citizens. You're concerned about it because of what it does to our prestige and our position all around the rest of the globe. How are we ever going to expect other nations to follow our leadership when we have this kind of violence within our own country? When we have a minority who won't accept or feel that they don't have any future under our form of government or under our system? It destroys and adversely affects our whole position, whether it's in the undeveloped nations of the world or in Western Europe. So I don't think we can accept that. But nor can we accept the idea that we still have injustices based on the color of a man's skin. I don't think a man should be prevented from finding decent employment at decent wages because his skin happens to be black. I don't think we can ask a man to go 12,500 miles away and fight in Vietnam, and then when he comes back say, we're not going to provide an education for his children. We're not going to provide decent housing, and we're not going to provide jobs. I think we have to do that. But then I think that we can do better. They can't find jobs. They can't find decent employment. They can't find... I think they should end their corruption. I think they should broaden their political base. They've taken the steps to draft their 18-year-olds and 19-year-olds. I think if they feel that the search and destroy missions where so many Americans are killed and so many innocent Vietnamese are killed, that they think that's necessary, then it should be conducted by the Army of South Vietnam and not by the Army of the United States. And it's a reflection on all of us. It's a reflection on all of us across this state and across this country. But the American commander, Ben Trey, said, when he made the remark, I had to go in and destroy that town in order to save it. That's a reflection on all of us as American citizens, even those who aren't there, but particularly those who are not there, and those of us who are in government officials, those of us who run for office. That is a direct reflection on all of us and our responsibility. And I intend to do something about it if I am elected President of the United States. And I think that the money that can be saved... In 1968, that we have young children by the tens of thousands who are starving to death. I think it should be changed, and I intend to do so as President of the United States. That will improve the quality of American life, that will bring peace to our own country and be the leaders for peace all around the globe. And that's what I think we stand for.
Yeah. Dan. Field
Oh, there he is.
Let's open it up right here.
Oh, look over there. Did you get it? Yeah. Well, I don't know.
You're from Dixon and you came down to see if they...
see if I lived through it. That's what you did. It's not true? Listen, we can do a lot of things in the United States and for peace around the rest of the world. That's what this country should stand for. Peace and tranquility. To the headquarters in Osborne, David Anderson. David. But anyway, if you give us a hand here, we can win here in Oregon. It's just a week.
Senator Robert F. Kennedy.
Students in America's schools. We will have to find more than 100,000 teachers in addition to what we have for our colleges alone. We will, in sum, have to build as many schools and train as many teachers in the next 3 decades as we have done in the last 3 centuries of our history here in the United States. This task is absolutely critical, for none of the other challenges we face will be met if our young people are not educated. None of the dreams, none of the hopes that we have for this country will be realized if our schools do not teach and if our children do not learn. The education of our citizens is the first national priority of our leadership in this country. It is a task, it seems to me, that we must accelerate. We have done much on all levels of government to support this work, and no one has done more than the Congresswoman Edith Green from the state of Oregon. We have in the past 5 years passed landmark bills, and we have spent billions of dollars. But if we match the work to be done to the tasks, the record of success is less bright. The Upward Bound program, which helped more than 80% of its trainees enter college, only reached 1/20th of those in need. Our program for college scholarships to the poor this year will help half the number that we helped last year. Only 13% of the funds approved for teacher training fellowships has been appropriated. The request for funds to help build college facility, funds which help build this college, have been cut by 83%. But money is not the only issue. We've also been ignoring the critical question: what kind of education are we buying for the billions of dollars that we are spending? We have too often assumed that programs and dollars are enough, without asking what our children are learning, or if they are learning. I think that was very close, because I didn't think you were going to clap. And that's what... I think that we can move toward educational excellence if we act in certain critical areas. First, we must be prepared to properly use our resources. For important as economy and government is, we cannot sell short the next generation of Americans. We spend for our entire effort in health, in education, and in welfare only 1/7 of what we spend for the war and its related costs, and I don't believe that that is satisfactory. And I believe that it is as important to fight for men's minds at home as it is to fight against others abroad. Second, we must be prepared to help change the structures of our school systems, and our 15 laws. First, to how many of, if you put your hand up, how many of those favor student deferments, and then I'll ask you how many are opposed. No, I don't intend, if I become president, to take your gun away or your rifle away from you. I think that it doesn't make a great deal of sense, however, that rifles and guns are in the hands of men who are demented, or men who have criminal records, and men who are crazy, and who others. I think you can always find problems with your own life and problems with your own country. But I'm reminded of the saying that I complained because I had no shoes until I met a man who had no feet. We can always find somebody who has had many more problems and many more difficulties than we do. And it seems to me that to apply ourselves to helping them in some way is much more useful than just retreating and turning off.
I want to say